why some people would choose cruises as a way to drive business results.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what we really do is we create profit buy-in and recruiting. I mean, those are the systems that we create and do it. And the cruises are just one of the deliverables at the end. So if you have a team, such as many real estate offices that are our clients, they tend to have someone who may not be all the way bought in, for lack of a nicer way of saying that. And having Barb in the back just undercutting you and creating havoc is not really good. So what our structure does is it creates 4 different pillars, not the least of which is translating whatever the manager's goal is into the individual love language of every single one of the employees. So then they can connect and resonate with you. Because science shows that regardless of any boss you can ever think of that you did not see eye to eye with, your top 5 reasons for getting out of bed and going to work in the morning and their top 5 did not line up. So what we do is we help connect the two and basically be a translator into every person's motivational love language about why they would go to work. And then we also pair it with the amazing incentive, which ultimately is the cruise, hence why the company's named after Elite Business Cruises. And then boom, your employees will run through fire, jump through the roof, whatever analogy you want. They get the job done. And oh, by the way, all the people in your competition realize that's a funner place to work at. I should look into that. And that's how you can take a sales team from going, that's pretty good, to being on fire and elite, to everyone wanting to jump with you.
Are you seeing, so are the cruises mainly for like a reward system essentially, or like a way to get people pumped up?
Yeah, we do 2 different fashions, but for the majority of our clients who are already existing sales teams, that's exactly it. They're a reward-based structure. And then the other percentage of our clientele or those who are coaches or professional speakers that want to have another platform or another way of interacting with their clientele.
Interesting. And then that would be when people want to do the speaking on a cruise to an audience?
That's exactly it.
Interesting. How often is that done?
Well, that happens whenever a coach comes up to me and says, hey, Joe, the reality is that I'm probably too good of a coach. And that's not to be bragging or unhumble or anything like that. It's just the simple reality is everyone does a subscription model and I can't hold my clients long enough because I finished their problem too fast. I go, that's a great situation. It's not good for the subscription model setup, but it's a great situation. What we then do is say, hey, let's offer a cruise offering where you get to meet everyone in person. It's an annual subscription now. So instead of it being, I fix your problem in 3 months and never see from you again, it's now I have a plethora of people I've helped over the course of the year. Some of them have gone all the way through the training. Some are in the middle of it. Some are just feeling us out. And we also get to all come together, be on board, and then go on this amazing cruise, wherever it be, California, the Caribbean, Mediterranean, doesn't really matter. The point is that it's completely unique offering. So you're no longer one of the other 500 coaches in your niche. You are unique. You get to see your people. And because it's such a wildly different offering, it's completely different pay scale that you're charging. And therefore, there's no real competition because your clients essentially go, well, I don't really know the difference between this guy or that guy, but at least with this guy, I get a free cruise out of it. It might be worth, paying the little extra for it. And then that's really the secret sauce that takes the clients from being just one of many to a one of one situation.
Yeah, because I haven't seen that before. So I was just wondering if that was very common or if that was just something that was like a one-off that happened and then it maybe took off in smaller niches, as you mentioned. But super interesting.
So it is unique that there are not a lot of other consultancy firms that do what we do. Quite frankly, when I built this company, I was hoping to copy off of somebody else. Just look around, how's everyone else doing, go from there. And the reality is when I popped my head up and started really searching, There isn't. There are travel agents, obviously, and they can, connect you on a trip, but there is no one who comes with a true consulting setup that instills a system and infrastructure within your company that results in you getting more profits, a more cultural buy-in, and a recruiting tool that's also tied to an incentive like this. It just doesn't exist. So that's one of the really cool things that our clients also get to benefit from, because on the speaking circuit, sure, you can go out and you can fight to be on someone's stage and then sell from stage and do all that fun stuff, which we certainly allow our speakers to do on ours. But the major difference is they're your clients before they even show up. They've already invested in you. They already want to be a part of your world. They already like you to some degree. And the cruise goes from just having amazing Zooms with someone to actually seeing them, shaking their hands. And, there's just something about jumping off a waterfall with one of your clients. They stay with you forever. There's just no other way to say retention increases than that. It's a bonding experience that you just can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I use the word, some people might misunderstand the word intimate, but it's a very intimate experience that it seems like it would be very difficult to get that time one-on-one with clients any other way. I mean, look at the impact that that like COVID, and like, I hate to bring it up, but like COVID-19 is an example. Like, that can, like, look at the impact that it has on a cruise ship, right? You're all stuck on a cruise ship. And it seems like a fantastic way to connect with other people. And I didn't even think of that aspect of it. I was really thinking about people who might spend time working on a cruise ship to be able to, like, offer that to their employees. That's how I thought of it before.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to sell to people who are not part of your herd. If you're a speaker trying to go on there, they have to already be one of your clients and get from your group. That's just an industry standard. But in terms of using this as a motivational force for your clients, you can do it for anywhere within your business. That's what we set it up for. We particularly focus upon salespeople because all of my clients can easily see this is how much money we make from them selling more, and it basically pays for itself. And then once the growth engine turns on, it radically pays for itself, which is the really cool part about why our retention rate is so high. And the way we got into creating this company of Elite Business Cruises was really unique. There was a couple of different clients we had of traditional consulting where we were just, again, helping clients grow and using the infrastructure that we use now. But it was actually during COVID. I've signed NDAs on some of this stuff, so I can't explicitly say what company it was. But it was during COVID. It was right when essentially Uber Eats and Grubhub were really taking off. Like, people were getting the idea of, hey, fast food without leaving the house. Let's go for that. This is the part of COVID where they didn't even put they didn't even put the sticker on again. People were still eating each other's fries. Like, it was that early in the process. And my client was in a pricing war with the other major fast food places at this intersection, where instead of having their specials and discounts on the sign, it was the rate they were paying people to work in their kitchen. And they were only like 6 cents apart. Like, it was not a wildly different price point, but so few people wanted to work that they were fighting over pennies. I mean, literally. And the client calls me up and says, long story short, that the people at headquarters are not helping me. I need to come up with a solution myself, or else I'm going to die. Come up with something. And that's what we did, is we created an incentive program and in structure that when people stayed, didn't do any no-shows, and gave him at least 30 hours a week, they would become qualified to go upon a cruise. And thank God Florida didn't close down, because we wouldn't have been able to pull this off. But the long story short was we were able to have his kitchen completely full. So the beginning of the story, his drive-through lane was packed always, but that's because no one was moving in it. Everyone was just sitting there. But now his drive-through line was packed and all the cars were moving through it. It was the biggest revenue that location has ever had. He eventually sold it because he wasn't following the franchise's guidelines and he effectively had to. But he turned lemons into lemonade. And that was what our consulting structure gave. And that was one of the first examples when we realized, hey, this cruise thing is working pretty good. Maybe we should start looking at that. And we then built the internal infrastructure within our company to now be able to hand it off. And that was a lot of behind the scenes work that, quite frankly, a lot of people would not go through. And that was part of when I realized why no one else has that connection of consulting and cruising, because it's a lot of back end stuff that you need to get together. And
is it really tough to deal with cruise ships to be able to, like, if you were wanting to section off a certain amount of rooms with the cruise ship, is that like just tremendously difficult with like bookings that are already done for regular cruises?
That's not necessarily the hard part. That part's actually that's them selling you stuff. They will sell you stuff all the time. It's getting it all in line and logistically no work for the client. That's the hard part. That's because you basically, if you're one of our clients, you need to show up with your passport and that's it. Be there on time and have your passport and the requirements. Getting to that step from having no starting point is where the law of the work is. But the cruises themselves, I mean, they want to help and collect your money. It's the in between part of, all right, you're our clients, now let's make this thing awesome. That's where the challenge of the world was.
I would have thought working with the cruise ships was the hard part, but it sounds like getting everybody in line on the client side is actually more difficult and interesting.
Well, I'm wildly outside of their normal demographic. Remember, I'm basically the only company doing this. They are built to talk to the mass public and get 10,000 people on a vessel. I am not their norm. So from the beginning, I'm a fish swimming upstream, and that's the real issue of it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is the first time that I've heard about this. What are some of the metrics that you've mentioned? There's a case that actually started a company of like offering cruises as rewards to offer incentives, and then are there any metrics? Have you seen any clients that have paid for their people to work on cruise ships now that there's like fast internet with things like Starlink?
Well, they don't do the work on their cruise. I guess they could, but they don't. The vast majority of them, they go and they're selling their cars on the car lot, and then they're going and celebrating on the cruise, and bringing the whole family involved and really bringing everyone together. But yeah, I mean, conceivably, you could have a remote job and work with Starlink or Starlink or any of them. Really, it doesn't matter which internet provider you're with, and just bounce around from ship to ship to ship and live that as your lifestyle. There are plenty of people that do long extended stay cruises and find that that's cheaper than living in Florida. It's its own little niche industry.
Actually, that's the exact reason why I was asking. I remember seeing that quite a long time ago. It was like a 2-year cruise. I don't know if it actually went through. But it was like a huge price tag because it was factoring in like daily living and all that. So I was wondering if people were doing that on a regular basis, or if that was just like an extreme case of this like huge offering that was out there. That was interesting.
Well, there certainly are long extended stay cruises that take you to less of the glamorous hotspots of the world, and they'll eventually land there. Like, for instance, the transition cruises. All the same ships that are in the Mediterranean live in the Caribbean, but they move out during hurricane season to go back over to Europe. Well, you can take that cruise and basically be at sea the whole time. You can take the cruise when it goes through the Panama Canal, either back to the Caribbean or over to Alaska. And these are all, off the beaten path ones that are duration ones. And then there's Asian ones that literally they'll go for weeks. So you have options of how to do that. And what a lot of people have found that once you factor in all the cost of living stuff, rent, food, basic medical, etc., it can be cheaper than a retirement in Florida. So it's a unique way of going about it. And again, you can work from it. They have the internet. You can certainly, if you have a remote job, you can do it. And there are people who have adopted the nomad life that still want people to take care of them that have taken it. It's not any of the things we sell, but it is part of the cruising ether that is out there.
I would almost thought that you guys would have gotten into that, but I really don't know like prevalent that is. Like I don't think a lot of people would do that. I think it would be a very niche thing, so probably not a lot of business there.
It, it,
But
it is an interesting, and when you think about the cruise industry as a whole, it's basically built for your vacations and having a week or so trip, and that's how it's built. That's the majority of people. So when you're coming at it with a niche request, whether it be I want to be able to create this amazing experience for my group, and this is how we're doing it, which is different than we park at an island and everyone has fun.
yeah,
There's a little more demanding upon the ship, and when you're going outside of the norms, even if it's creating the entire ship into one theme as a giant pep rally or something of that nature, it's unique. And unique by definition is outside of the rinse and repeat formula that essentially the industry is in, because every industry is in that. You go and get a bag of Doritos, it's the same whether you get it here, there, or anywhere else, because it's a rinse and repeat product. Same with Ford, same with anything else. So the cruise liner has the exact same model. We want to treat everyone the same way to a high standard, and this is how you get into our world. Figuring out the adapter to get into the world differently, like I said, that's the challenge.
yeah. I mean, it's I mean, I've never even been on a cruise, to be honest.
Mm.
What are the like do you, if you were to offer incentives for like a workforce or like younger people are super interested in getting on cruises, or is it mostly like a workforce with like an older age demographic? Like,
Oh, it's across the
have you seen
board.
it?
I mean, what we do is we'll pair the line that is geared towards what the clients want. We have some clients that want to tailor towards a specific demo. As you said, age is one of the ways they break it up. And we have some that just want to be able to take care of everybody and everything in between. So, like I said, it all depends on what it is that they're trying to achieve is really the answer. And we're able to tailor it in that regard very easily. It's the joy of working with many different cruise lines so that you're not pinned into just one's offering. And that is the power within it. So yeah, the long story short is there's going to be different motivating factors that make someone want to go and care about this incentive, but rarely are they demographic based. Almost always they're psychologically based.
Mhm. Are clients ever researching this? Like, I would find it tough too, because you guys are the only ones, and I've never heard of this before. But are clients ever
Mhm.
researching these incentives, or are you guys mostly approaching people and getting them interested in this type of incentive and like pitching the benefits?
Well, Kevin, it's certainly both. It's not even necessarily the benefits. It's the problem that we solve. It's the fact that many managers, particularly sales managers around this country, are spending a lot of their time herding their own cats instead of going out and recruiting new talent to come join them. You know, in general, sales managers know how to teach. They know how to make their sales force better when they actually will listen and pay attention. One of our major pillars is getting them to listen and pay attention. Another one of the major pillars is helping with the recruiting. So you don't need to spend your time herding your own cats. We basically do that for you. And then obviously going out and getting all stars from other teams. Because while you can develop your own talent, and most people are very good at that, you get a lot more immediate results today when you can steal the best salesperson from Toyota to come on your Ford lot. That's an instant upgrade. And that's really, like I said, one of the benefits that people get. There's no difference between selling Allstate or Progressive. Once you can sell insurance, you can sell insurance. So give me the people who already are doing $100,000 a year. Let's bring them on my team. I'll pay them that. I'll pay them the same amount. I get credit for all the sales. And that's one of the ways that we really help make that sales manager's life so much better and basically become rocket fuel to their career to skyrocket up to their company. And that's the people who call us in to come help their situations. And that's the problem that we solve. The cruise is, like I said, this the sexy part at the end. Everyone likes it. We're having
Yeah, I'm
drinks.
actually getting to understand that now.
Stuff.
Yeah, I'm getting to understand that now. It's actually very interesting. Like, it actually really worked on me too. Like, I mean, I had a misunderstanding of something. I thought that something that was niche was obviously bigger, and then listening to you, it does sound like that, and it's just strange how a cruise does that. It makes you listen, and it gets you interested. And so, would you say that you have like a very standard consultancy with this nice sticker at the end of it, and a nice prize essentially? Is that what you guys are doing?
I wouldn't say we have a standard consultancy. I mean, we do in the sense that we are solving basic, more not even basic and advanced business problems. You know, how to make us more money, how to get us to have people want to buy into our culture, etc. Where we really stand out from the consultancy part behind the scenes is the science element of it, and the science that we're bringing to the table. Um, we're not really a tech firm that believes you should just use ChatGPT to replace everybody. That's not us at all. What we bring in is science that shows how to connect and get more out of everyone. You know, Gallup releases a poll that says only 22% of the American workforce is engaged at work. Well, the solution to that is not get an AI to replace your workforce. The solution is to turn that from 22% engagement to 80+% engagement. And then the
Yeah.
multiplier effect of the productivity of your people just skyrockets. That's really where we come into play, is we're masters of the science. You know, really every business, regardless of what it is, comes down to answers to two questions. What is the relationship that your business has with your employees? And what is the relationship your business has with the prospects slash clients? If either one of those answers are okay, but that business is going to die. It's just a matter of when. What we
Yeah, I mean,
do
that
is
is the
excel.
fundamentals of business right there. If you're not
Mhm.
doing those well, then there's no reason for the paper to exist, right?
That's exactly it. And Kevin, you mentioned before COVID. COVID was an accelerant upon a problem that has just taken off. Most employers come from the mindset that I'm paying you, you should just do what we tell you no matter what. And the entire reason someone goes to work is because of their personal life. But because of all these different various legal and social pitfalls and landmines, most businesses never want to engage to the personal side of an employee. Well, that's one of the major starting points that we come from. Why are you coming to work? Why are you motivated to even caring in the first place? And getting that in line, that alignment between an employee and a manager and the larger company and overall doing the employment is the difference. And like I said, we don't necessarily teach people this is how you talk to an employee on your lot, or this is how you overcome this objection or that objection. Sure, we can, but that's not what our structure is really built for. Our structure is built for when your employees wake up in the morning, they want to be there. And when your employees want to be there, all kinds of other things happen. They tell their friends, you get more people wanting to apply to work for you. The clients are more excited to be there. All these important things that you want your business to be doing anyway magically fall in the line, and everyone is happier, more profitable, and people want to be there. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. Profits, buy-in, and recruiting. That's what we do.
Yeah, it sounds a whole lot easier to keep a consistent experience for customers as well. I could see how it'd be really
Mhm.
frustrating to deal with an organization that's not bought in, and then it's a luck of a draw and a call if you want to deal with the company.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, if you look at that's what the insurance industry is notorious for. Is I had one advisor today, I had another advisor on the next statement, and guess what? My statement next quarter is going to have another advisor's name on it. It's a notorious problem, but it's also what it is, because the insurance agents, most insurance agencies start with it's hard enough to pass the test to get someone certified. We just take as anyone who will do it. They pass the test, and then we'll see if they
Yeah.
stick around. And the ones that are rock stars will keep, but the under ones just go through it. You know, when I wrote my book, Casino Sales Master, doing the research for it, and when you look at sales as an industry of itself, not necessarily as a subset of every other industry, but as an industry of itself, 90% of people who start a commission based sales job will not be in the industry of sales within 48 months from now. That means they'll be out completely. It's
What
a
was the
very hard
percentage?
thing to do. Over 90% of the people will be out within 4 years.
Over 90%?
Mhm.
Holy.
That's why you see so many just churning through it.
That sucks to hear because it's a very rewarding career for a lot of people. You know, that's
Oh, it
a
sure is.
very that's just not being. I mean, that ties into why services like yours are very necessary. You need to get taught how to get with the program, and it's very difficult to do that if you're not dealing with people's needs. You mentioned that employers are scared to kind of say what needs to be said. Are you guys dealing with like all levels of employees or top performers? Where do you guys specialize, if anywhere?
All across the board. I mean, we really come into a team when take them wherever they're at. You know, most teams are going to have the same ratios. They have a couple of people who are super rock stars. They have a couple of people who are anchors, and they have the majority in the middle that will go whatever direction that they're pushed, and whatever direction the manager ultimately allows. And that's really where we come into is that a lot of time the managers has amazing ideas that they know what they want to do and they know how to do it, but they're missing that traction point with the employees and it's just not connecting. Like I said, that's where we help. I mean, we make it that everyone's now gripping the same way and they're all moving in the same direction. And that's really one of the things that really spark everyone up. So to specifically answer your question, almost every single one of the incentive packages that we build are an all or nothing based upon a team criteria goal. So you can have one rock star going all the way up to the moon, but if the rest of the team doesn't pull their weight, no one's going. And that's one of the strong elements that turn the world of sales very differently, because the majority of commission-based salespeople aren't just on their own. They'll get a little bit of help here and there, but they're basically on their own. But they're fighting the people who are within their own building. You know, I need to get that listing on Maple Street. I'm not letting him get it. So if I have to miss this meeting and go talk to the client to get it before they can, I'm going to do it. And the self-serving interest, which is natural within all of us, shouldn't be seen as a negative or detriment. It should be honed to a success. And like I said, that's what we built a structure to help businesses do, so that it's no longer fighting internally to get your own independent, commission quota, whatever you want to call it, but actually to build up and help each other that goes beyond just the manager supporting the team, but the team in and of itself helping each other. I mean, quite frankly, it's the difference between being a jet or being a chief.
I was actually just going to start mentioning the word culture. I mean, it sounds like we're getting right into that. And I find I was actually going to write about this, like a little blog post when I was thinking about it at work. That, there's some people that show up at work and it's just in the way, in the simple words they use when they talk, that it just impacts a whole office. Just being down about a certain subject or talking negatively like it's a joke. And it just spreads like wildfire in the way that people act. It sounds like you guys address stuff like that as well, and also offer like a reward system for something at the end of that.
Oh, that's absolutely it, Kevin. Like when I talked earlier about Barb in the back, she's my specific real estate office example because most people can visualize the Barb in the back who's talking negatively, bringing everyone down. And now there's a contingency within the rooms. Like, do I really want to go back? Do I really want to do this? And it's this whole negative hole you got to start to get out of before you even get into profits. It's like, and it's just because she does a couple of sales a year, we keep her around. Like, how about instead of having this debate about whether she's worth keeping around or not, everyone converts and we start using ways of she's now talking positively. We figured out how to get her seen and heard in a way she wants to be. And that ability to attract a herd she has within the company is now used towards everyone's positive direction. And that's one of the major things that we do. And that's one of the ways we do culture shifts is to get everyone pulling in the right direction. Again, a house divided on itself does not work.
Mhm. Yeah, it's it's tough to see that. It's quite frustrating. I'd be very thankful if I worked at an office where you guys came in and fixed that, because it really starts to feel like who gets fired, or this place is never going to start talking positively. You might not even know that the problem's there. That's the problem with culture.
Mhm.
It's like it's nagging in the back. You just don't like showing up. You don't want to produce results. Do you guys what's your main delivery method of fixing a problem? Like talks to the company, or is there what kind of solutions are you guys implementing?
So there's not a one size fits all model of that. We come in starting with whatever their initial conversation metrics are. If they're predominantly an email based firm, cool. If they're coming in where it's a lot of one-on-one conversations, we help the manager how to communicate with each of their people on their own personal level. If it's a Zoom based structure, we do those. I mean, like I said, we all go off of what the company's already accustomed to. And to your larger point there, Kevin, of how language can bring everyone down, that's one of the areas we specifically built the structure around, which is that language of not being positive for the sake of being positive, because that doesn't work, but being able to address it in a way in which each individual will hear their own love language, which is way, way more powerful than just being blanketly positive.
You
And that's
frame
why we
that
do
in
it
a
that
way
way.
that I
Each,
haven't heard. That's very
well, there you go.
interesting. They're hearing it. They're hearing it in their own love language. It doesn't mean that you
Mhm.
have to give it in their own love language in every way, and that's quite interesting how you do that. Do you work with each employee in some cases on an individual basis to help them through that?
Oh yeah, yeah. So when a client hires us on board, the first thing that we do is we have every employee that we're responsible for. We have them fill out a psychological exam. Long story short, that's how we determine everyone's strengths. And then when we're doing our one-on-one messaging, even if it's an email that needs to tell everyone, this is how many units we sold, this is how many we need to sell by the end of June, every single one of them are going to get that email written differently in accordance to their own language. So that way, every person is literally addressed in their own unique, special way. And that's not meant to be like, oh, you guys can't handle being heard another way. It's when you speak to them in a way that they want to be heard and they know that you spent the time to make it specifically to them. It's another element of personalization and caring that will go to the next level. It's also a very strategic move. See, I say this knowing that there's all 20 different personality types and motivators that are going to hear this differently and get why it would work and why it wouldn't. So
Yeah.
whether it's a feeling based answer, a just get it done, or anything in between, we tailor it to them so that they get us. It's not different than selling to a client. When a client goes, this guy truly understands me, they're way more likely to buy. So we understand that, most sales managers know what they're doing. They just need the people to listen. And that's where we come in.
I feel like a lot of people might not even do that in when they're selling somebody, there's already problems in sales as it's like to begin, right? That's very interesting though. I
Sure.
mean, it's I feel like everybody might struggle with the 20 personalities and understanding how that might have an impact, but thinking about receiving an email about a sales target, and when there's some history in the company, it feels a little stressful to get those emails, or it might just not work for you to motivate you. Just starts to seem the same. I feel like
Hmm.
everybody could relate to that being personalized.
Yeah. And then they never are. It's, we even go deeper than this because there are some people that want to get that recognition in front of everyone. Hey, I am in the lead. You tell every single person I'm in the lead because that's what I'm here. That's going to keep doing. I'm going to keep winning. I'm going to be in the lead. And that's the way it is. And there are some people that are like, yeah, I did my job. I don't need this whole big praise of it. I mean, you can see the same thing in the world of donations. You see people anonymously donate huge amounts of money,
Yeah.
and you see people give $10 and they want their name on a building. Comparatively, it's like that. What? But, nonprofits have learned this, that you learn how to do it. It's at the end of the day, it's still a relationship. It's just, how do you celebrate people correctly? How do you motivate them correctly? There's times to have the carrot, there's time to have the stick, and how to use it in a way that actually will respond to each person correctly is a system. And when you do it correctly, like I said, we become infrastructures to clients, and we're growth engines. And that's what happens. You wake up, you're like, wow, when we first started with you, the building only needed to sell 28 cars. Now, 18 months later, we're moving 42 cars. Well, there's a lot of growth that happens there. And if you just use that as a generic example, it's what our clients go through all the time, regardless of what it is that they're selling.
The donation example is actually such a brilliant example of this. Like, why are you donating to something? It's so different. And the reward, do you want a reward? Do you want to do it for a simple tax receipt? Do you want, like, oh my goodness, it's like that is so bad. That's such a great example. I mean, I could see how this is getting so much more relevant as technology develops and as there's more like remote and communication through networks.
Yeah, I mean, the technology element is certainly real. I mean, there's no way that that's not changing or growing. And I mean, it really comes back to one of the fundamental things that society hasn't figured out yet, which is, how do you truly motivate someone that you don't see? But we haven't even figured out, backtrack the question before that. How do we actually motivate people we do see? If you go through the history of the way companies were built, and you can even see this in some modern teams, is that the reason they were successful is basically they kept hiring people who were exactly like the manager, and the manager knew how to relate to them because they were just like him. All right, that's cool, and that works for a while, except for the fact that you're taking away over 80% of the potential workforce out of the category. But if you find someone who's a perfect fit for you and you both can do it, great. But that doesn't work. Or you can just say, this person is the superstar greatest, and we're going to mesh together no matter how hard they are on everyone else. I just want to win the ring. That's ultimately what Tom Brady and Belichick did. That they were horrendous people to be around. But you dealt with it because you wanted the outcome. Well, is your employee, I'm going to deal with it just because I want a paycheck, and I'm not going to really last for that for 30 years. Most Patriots left within 2 seasons. It's why there are only 3 Hall of Famers from a 6 Super Bowl ring, because they all left. No one wanted to stay in there, and the success wasn't worth it. Do you want your place to be that? Sure. The rings are there and the Super Bowls are there, but no one wants to celebrate with you. I mean, that's ultimately what you're building in a lot of ways.
To a firm like that? I mean, have you ever even had a client approach you and act like that? It just seems like there's no helping that to somebody like me, but I don't have the experience.
Well, I'm yet to have a client be self-aware enough to realize that they're doing that. But we certainly have dealt with this problem. And the reality is you just dive into it. And I know how to talk to all the managers the same way I know how to talk to salespeople. Like you could argue my secret power is knowing what they are and how to communicate with everyone. But it goes way beyond that. And because I can see your interactions are wrong, and I can go out and talk to you about how to build a relationship up correctly. Again, it's what you said. Most people don't know that they're doing it wrong. They just see, hey, live hard, play hard, and you're not able to handle it anymore. So someone new will come in the door who will.
Yeah.
Okay.
I bet the
turnover. What if you were able to retain? That's exactly it. What if you were able to retain 80% of those people who left? And now instead of 5 people on your sales team, there was 25. And it doesn't take very hard to do a math degree.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not hard. It's not hard math. That's funny. Yeah. Is there a company that you admire in the way that they act?
There's a lot of companies I think that do things well. Keller Williams is a company that really believes in rewarding the team and growing it internally. There's also other real estate firms that believe I just want to make you guys all the absolute sharpest knife in the world and cut anyone that gets in your way. And there's many, many in between. So what you tend to see is the retention rates show the culture. I mean, that's one of the things I believe in. And we have a lot of people that say, I don't want to be a place that's overturning people all the time. Everyone, I mean, you'll see a study all the time. The cost it takes to replace someone is much more than the cost of keeping them. And what a lot of businesses mistakenly believe is, well, then I should just pay everyone more. No, 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 no. There are many reasons someone will go to work, and the paycheck is only part of the equation. If you can satisfy and give people more without it being through the prism of the paycheck, which, by the way, has a negative marginal return, which means you keep paying more and getting less in return. If you can figure out how to incentivize people, make them want to come to work and be with you in a way that doesn't exponentially keep increasing your employee expense, that's how you win like crazy. And that's one of our pillars, is being able to make your ROI explode, because the human nature effect of how you get treated at work is free if you do it correctly. And we used to know this, but we lost it. And, people pay me to bring it back.
Yeah. Wow. Is that ever important? Me showing up in a workplace and being impacted to where it impacts me outside, being demotivated, drained, that's a huge cost. Like, just think about this podcast. I've got work. If I felt drained every day, I wouldn't be able to do this. So that'd be a huge cost to me.
Yeah, it's a cost to you as an individual. It's a cost to the company because your output is declining. It's a fundamental fact. It doesn't matter whether you're a programmer or you're on the front lines of sales or whatever. You're declining. And when you see that, it's a problem. One of our first clients was a call center. And it was how to get them motivated. And you talk about turnover, it was nuts. And the whole reason we got
that's a tough client. Wow.
Yeah, and the guy who hired us, the sales manager who hired us, was one of the guys who got promoted from within. So he saw how horrible it was, and they were the kind of call center that when you got done with a call, the person you were on the phone with would leave you a review, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 being awesome, 1 being bad, and he had a big bonus built into his contract that if he could just average a 3.75. That's all he had to do. We instilled the structure. They averaged a 4.48. He hit double bonus. It went through the roof. It went nuts. And now people actually liked calling up the call center. The company as a whole got more revenue out of it as all their ratings about their call center got better. Their support team got better. People became more comfortable buying this product compared to essentially the exact same substitute product that had a better reputation online. So as their call center got better, all their reviews across the board got better, boom, 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 and the investment took off. And that's one of the reasons, like I said, that we do stuff like this. I mean, that's where it's all relationships. You take care of people, they'll take care of each other, and it grows.
Yeah, to me, I love the concept of creativity. This would be the core point of my day here is I think of companies like Apple, maybe Google and things like that, of like companies where people will just work a whole career to get involved, and the amount that people spend for their products, it's so far beyond the product, right? And creativity in the world of AI. Think of ChatGPT, these average responses. You're finding them everywhere, blog posts, videos, everything, right? You need creative conversation. And in something like sales, like think of that. You just need to hear somebody on the other side of the phone that's not just giving you these automated responses. And just imagine the impact that that's having.
Yeah, Kevin. And this is something that goes right along those lines. Like, if you just step back and look at this from a historical perspective about why what you're hitting upon is not going to work, which is everyone basically using the AI filter to try to talk to everyone. It's not going to work. And here's a very fast forward historical reason you can see why. It's a very easy linear progression. Back in the Civil War, the way anyone got their information was reading it or talking to someone. Fast forward to the 20s, radio gets invented and the telegram starts picking up. Well, that's still reading it from a telegram, but from radio now I'm hearing you. Okay. What do we have during that time? We have ways of discerning how to trust someone, how not to. We have a reputation behind someone's name on their printed content. Radio's starting to get a little bit more ambiguity because now, yeah, they say their name, but it's just a little bit less. TV starts taking off, and yeah, we see Walter Cronkite, and he has the power to end the entire war, or at least morale of the country, in one sentence. But we also quickly realize that people are misusing that and taking advantage of us. And essentially, every generation along the way has created a more sophisticated internal filter about what should I believe and why. And then you fast forward to the massive accelerant, which is the internet. People start really, who am I actually paying attention to? Who should I listen to? I care. And then the iPhone comes out, and now we are in a hyperdrive of catfishing and all that. Like, you're probably too young for this, but in 2004, a linebacker from the University of Notre Dame who went to the national title game was catfished on a 6-month span, basically with ESPN televising it. His name was Teo. And the reality was everyone over the age of 40 couldn't believe, like, why would someone lie to him? Why would someone do this? And everyone under the age of 20 was like, yeah, this happens all the time. That's on you, bro. Like, you should be better than that. And then there's obviously the middle gap that's like in that gray area. You go out today and you try to show a fake image to a 17-year-old, 100% they know it's fake immediately. The older generation take a while to get it, but they know instantly. They know when they're talking to a real person when they are. So this level of, sure, it's easier to just have chat write everything for you, but everyone knows it was chat. So therefore they don't care. Then you lose more credibility than you gain. And that's one of these things that all these platforms are inherently fighting with. You know, you're putting out 5 million pieces of content on Instagram and LinkedIn and all these other places. You're ultimately hurting LinkedIn and Instagram's brand. And they're going to eventually end it. And that's the reality. And that's going to just continue to keep growing and all that. And there's, you might not even be able to describe it. Like, that 17-year-old can't go to her grandma and teach her, like, this is how I know it's real or not. She just knows because she lives in it. And that's the reality that's going to keep growing. And that's why this lack of creativity of just having the AIs do it for you is destined to fail. But we're accelerating so hard into that. It's like, there's a cliff right. This is like the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. You're running as fast as you can. That cliff's coming eventually. Just, are you going to be holding the bag or not? And a lot of people are. And that's just the reality of it. And it's going to take some companies into the ground, and it's going to open up the doors for others. I mean, they don't want to know this, but Meta will not exist the same way it does right now 10 years from now because of this problem. Unless they solve it, there will be a replacement with some guy who is in AI right now who figures out how to keep it from getting on his platform, and they will take over Meta. Just like all the other social medias are all at risk for it. It's a risk that's inevitable. It's obvious, but no one wants to address it.
Yeah, I mean, people don't want to consume that. You mentioned brand right when I was thinking of that word. I'm like, imagine the impact that this would just have on your business, Like, you told a perfect story there of how branding started to become more prevalent as you became more distant to the information, and even face-to-face in some cases went away with things like radio, and then how do you hear it in somebody's voice? It's even beyond the voice. What's the culture that's stayed around an organization? That's very tough to fix, but it can be fixed with what you're saying here. you know,
It's
you
very
can
tough to
work
fix
with
and
the
very easy to
increasing.
lose too. Bud Light showed how easy you can lose it.
Yeah, saw
I
that.
mean, they lost
That
25% of their
was
market share that you have to recover 4 years later.
yeah. How did that change? That changed so quick. That was incredible. Like that felt like it was
Mhm.
overnight.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you can lose it very quickly. And, you know, that case wasn't an AI doing it. That was why you don't let a multi-billion-dollar advertising campaign be run by one 26-year-old. But that's why you have to have with all these tools, you have to have oversight and know what you're doing. That's part of building a successful structure.
Yeah. Well, anyways, interesting conversation. I've gotten super interested in culture. Obviously AI. I have very similar views to that. It very much depends on average numbers. Average numbers have always stricken me as a little bit annoying because you know, just spending 5 more minutes on your writing and writing it a little closer, a little less boilerplate can really have a huge impact when almost everybody's doing it nowadays.
Mhm.
And that very much ties into what you guys are doing for companies. I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like if I was to hire a consultant for my company, it's how do you get everybody feeling like that? You know, that every one of their actions are feeling rewarded in a way that works for them, and they're walking out refreshed. So it
Mhm.
sounds very interesting to me.
And the answer is you internalize it to their soul. To get to the nitty gritty of it, that's what you got to do. So that inside them, they have value, meaning, and a desire to want to be able to jump through the wall and wake up in the morning and be with you. And that is an
Mhm.
internal driven decision. Nothing externally can replace what someone's internal motivations are. You can't, you know?
Yeah, is it how it does the time it takes to work with companies to learn about their people to this extent vary super widely, or is there like an average out there like that you've found?
There is a steep learning curve to truly understand how the relationships dynamically work. And that's a human to human relationship connection. Once you get on top of that mountain, you can really go into any relationship and quickly do it. I mean, that's the reality of it. So yes, building up the science behind our consultancy firm and what it's all based upon, radically long, very long time. But now that we have built it and we have it, I can walk into a conversation with a sales manager, have them use some of our tools, and within a series of hours know how to interact, where their problems are, at
Wow.
least diagnose it. I got to confirm everything, but I'm at least able to diagnose the major problems and pitfalls within that entity very quickly. Part of its
Wow.
experience from me
I
and my
thought it
team.
was going to be a couple years as the answer.
No, no, because it's human relationships at the end of the day. And once you really get into doing that, again, this used to be a much more prevalent part of our culture, connecting with people and understanding what was there. And we have gone so much away from there, some good reasons, some bad reasons. But at the end of the day, we're not at a spot where you can be intimate and vulnerable with someone. A lot of it has to
Mhm.
do with the acceleration of the AI and vulnerability of stuff we see through the phones. You know, you started
Mhm.
being 13 years old and we're living behind a filter then, it's going to be natural to do it when you're 25 in the workplace. And
Yeah. Yeah, it's spreading, it's becoming a norm, so it's hard to say that it's going to go away, right? So people are becoming more distant to how to interact with people. They're also becoming more sensitive at the same time because when you pull away from other people, you become more sensitive behind technology and details. So that really starts to create a lot of problems, you know, and that shows a lot of need for somebody who's been researching this and building tools.
Mhm.
I think by default, it would take a couple of years to understand your people to this level with none of those tools.
Well, so there's a difference between understanding what they're going through and living it with them. That's an important clarification to actually be able to be 100% with them and know where they're at and be their best friend and know all that. That is a matter of years. But to understand the phenomena that you just described, that I feel less connected with people as I hide more and more on my phone. And that makes me more vulnerable, more afraid, more anxious. All of that happens naturally. And it all stems from one core problem, which is a fear and not knowing how to be appropriately vulnerable. And a lot of this has been taught the wrong way by Meta from the beginning when you first get your first selfie taking iPhone. It's a much
Yeah.
larger problem with women than it is with guys. Not to say it's not for guys, but it's a much larger problem with them. And if you don't know how to correctly be vulnerable, you cannot successfully build relationships in the long term. But your body is naturally required to have meaningful relationships. So you're simultaneously knowing you are called to do this the same way you are knowing you are calling to eat something. And you know you're making it harder on yourself to do it. It's a psychological vortex of failure that you are creating. And there are chapters of this in my book.
Oh wow, it wraps in perfectly. I was going to get you to mention something quick about most interesting part of your book that you consult on most often that people can read to. But let me touch on quickly. Great point right there. How are people supposed to focus on work when they're thinking of all this in their mind? You know, it's almost like cognitive dissonance. There's like you need one thing, but something else is happening. You got something bouncing around in there. You know.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And my book has a lot of this science in it. My book is called Casino Sales Master: Proven System to Beat the Odds in Sales and Life, and it is really the outlining of how all this science gets used in practice. So I wanted to take a test against the hardest dragon that every culture universally agrees upon. And when you look at every culture across the world, there's not a whole lot of things they agree upon. Like air should be clean, I want my water to be drinkable, and casinos are built to take your money. So if you can use just relationship skills to go into a casino, play the games they want you to play, and still have them pay you, playing their way in a way that they have rigged in every way possible, and still do that because your relationship skills are that sound, that is something that's completely world different. And that's what the book is about. So it teaches people a lot, but it is not a dry textbook at all. And it will teach you how to get a casino to want to pay you, how to get your adult daughter who hasn't talked to you in 12 years to pick up the phone and actually have meaningful conversations with you, how to get a boss to give you a promotion, how to sell better, obviously. And that sales is in the title for a reason. And
Yeah.
all of these different things are what we bring to the table, and that's what the book does. You can get that on Amazon or at casinosalesmaster.win.
That's great. I mean, what better example than sales where somebody's trying to take advantage and maybe even feels bad that they're getting the best deal on you, and then if you're able to win in there, you've really mastered it. So that sounds like a very fantastic, very interesting book.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Is there is there any is there any like chapter that stands out to you that when I write, there's some parts of my writing that I favor over others? Is there something that's like you found in absolutely everything?
Yeah, so there are, I mean, vulnerability the vulnerability chapter is certainly important. And part of that chapter, we talk about how there are some things I just absolutely do not like. But there's also a requirement to it's not about me. The relationships have two sides, etc. And I was with a dealer who just absolutely loved the 1990s Braves, and I gotta tell you, I hate the Braves. Especially that era. Like I never liked Bobby Cox. Chipper Jones, I always felt was like, no. I mean, Maddox was cool. Like, he could pitch the ball like crazy. But the only one I ever really liked was John Smoltz. Of all of those 40 people over the 10-year span that were like the main Braves, was Smoltz. And this guy's going on and on about the Braves. And I was able to just turn and talk about John Smoltz for a while. The guy loved it because it was like a deep dive in his favorite thing. And instead of just clicking that box of I hate the Braves, run away, talk about something else, I found that spot that really connected with him. And then magically, while talking to him about the thing that mattered the most to him, treating him like a person, doing all the other things that I teach how to do correctly with a dealer in the book, which is what you do with any relationship. That's just the prism of a dealer. But magically during that period, I made roughly 20 times what I was betting as we were talking about John Smoltz. Somehow I just kept winning. And the reason was he could control it. And that's how it happened. Actually, at the end of it, he told me I had to leave before his pit boss showed up. So that's what I did.
That is a wild story for a wild book. People should check that out to see how that was written. Wow. So mostly depending on psychology in your consultancy and line of work.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, quite frankly, 97% of people, if not more, will never know the science of how they build a relationship. But it's arguably one of the most important things you do. You don't know the science of how you breathe, so it's like, I don't even know how to build a relationship. I don't know how I breathe. It just works and happens. Okay, cool. Move on to the next thing. But when you actually start to learn how you build relationships, how your brain works, how you connect with other people, it is world changing. And like I said, that's what we bring to our clients is world changing result. Now we talk about the problem we solve, which is more profit, buy-in, and recruiting, but it's world changing at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's really tough to put on a spreadsheet. You can, but in part, it's really tough to tell somebody that they're going to come home and feel completely different after work. Something like that. It's just impossible to measure that, and and that just shows the rewards. Somebody might not even know why they want to show up every day and give their all. That's probably what you're looking for every day from your clients. So I can't imagine that it's a tough time to find tons of people in need.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. I do what I did yesterday, and there's not a little thought or passion behind it, and instilling that with someone, it brings them to life. It makes them come alive. And again, there's no magical demographic data that says this is what a successful person looks like, or this is what an unsuccessful person looks like. It is all about how do you build that relationship between the employee and the employer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it ties right into working with every employee on a one-on-one basis. I could see how, they're getting tons of benefits in their personal life off this too. So it's a great investment that their employer is making. But anyways, I'll read a couple chapters of the book. That sounds interesting. It's a wild story right there. So it got me interested. And thank you very much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me, Kevin, and glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, one more time, why don't you let people know where they can find you, and then we'll cut it short here.
Elite Business Cruises. That's Elite Business Cruises is where you guys can come out and find me.